He's Ross Tucker, CBS Westwood One color analyst, host of Ross Tucker Football Podcast, the former NFL offensive lineman, host of Even Money, a betting podcast. Our good buddy joining us, as he always does, every Monday. The best team in football right now is who, Ross Tucker?
Oh, I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Dan. And I think it's hard to make an argument otherwise at this point. That was an epic beatdown of a Tennessee Titans team that never loses 2 games in a row, that I have tremendous amount of respect for. My former teammate, Mike Vrabel, as the head coach. You know the Titans are tough. You know they're going to be in every game. They weren't at all. I mean, the Eagles totally dominated them up front, both sides of the ball. Dan, if they want to run for 350 yards, they do that against the Packers. You want them to throw for 350 yards, they do that against the Titans. Now they have 6 D tackles, a bunch of D linemen getting after Tannehill. Even their special teams were better. I think Jalen Hurts is probably at this point the MVP of the league, which is wild to even say. I think that right now it's the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think they have by far the strongest argument.
Okay. Then second best team is who?
Well, that's a little bit more difficult. I do not think it's the Minnesota Vikings. You know, the Vikings have won every close game. I mean, the law of averages, Dan, you've been doing this a long time. You never win every close game. They've won every close game. Their only 2 losses, they got blasted by the Eagles and Cowboys.
Okay, the Vikings are the first team in league history to start a season 9-0 in games decided by 8 points or less. So that backs up your claim here.
So I'm going to use that all week, by the way. Thank you for that. That's stat of the day, stat of the day. That was awesome. I'm going to use it all week. And what's really wild to me about that, Dan, it's not like they have Mahomes as their quarterback, right? Like, it's not like they have Joe Montana and you're like, okay, well, they're going to win their fair share of close games. They're going to win 6 out of 9 or 7 out of 9. It's Cousins, and it's a wild stat. Right now, I still think the Chiefs are up there. The Bengals. I like the Niners as well, although that's a little bit of a different conversation now with the Jimmy G injury. And certainly the Bills are still in the mix. I think it's clear the Eagles are the best. I think those 3 or 4 teams I just named, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City, maybe the Cowboys, maybe the Niners are in the mix to be the next best one.
Wait, maybe the Cowboys? What am I missing here? Third in offense, third in defense? Is this just an anti-Cowboy bias by you?
No, I don't think so. I think the Cowboys absolutely deserve to be in the mix. I think they are one of the 3-4 best teams in the NFL. Absolutely.
Okay.
There should. Now, I will also say this. It was 21-19 at home in the fourth quarter against the Colts. It wasn't an overwhelmingly impressive performance until all the turnovers happened late in that game. But they're playing at a really high level as well. I think I'll take the Cowboys probably right now over the Niners with Purdy at quarterback and the Vikings. So the 2 best teams in the NFC might both be in the NFC East, and it might be the 2 teams that destroyed the Minnesota Vikings earlier in the year.
What can the Niners do with Jimmy Garoppolo done for the year?
Not much. They're not like there's anybody out there. I guess they could maybe call like a Phillip Rivers.
No, we can't do that.
Why not?
No. I'd rather call Drew Brees as long as he didn't die from being, electrocuted or whatever happened, struck by lightning. God, you can't bring in Phillip Rivers.
I hear you. I wonder who they would consider. I think they need to consider somebody. I'm sure Favre would love to change the conversation around him right now. Favre wouldn't mind being in the headlines.
No. We can't have Favre back. No, we can't. We can't do that. All right, a couple other things here. Quarterback 25 or under that you would start your franchise with. So I give you Lamar, Kyler, Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert, or other. Tua.
Well, Hurts is in there.
Oh, yeah.
I think you got to put Hurts in there right now. Definitely not Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. How old is Josh Allen? He's older than 25
26.
now? Okay. Out of those guys, it's either Joe Burrow or Hurts for me.
You would take Hurts over Justin Herbert?
Yes, I would. Yeah. I think Herbert is fantastic. And I will say this, it's a little hard to evaluate those guys at times. I'm watching both those games yesterday. Jalen Hurts, Dan, at times has like 5 or 6 seconds to throw the ball, and there's nobody around him. I mean, meanwhile, you watch Herbert. I mean, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, they were all over him. He's running around. He's trying to throw the ball like this. I will say the thing that makes me lean towards Hurts, it is just so valuable having a quarterback that can run like that. I mean, it just opens up so many things for your offense. The question is like, what does that mean 5 years from now or 10 years from now when their running isn't as much of a threat? But Jalen Hurts has Dan, I thought maybe this year he'd be a top 15 quarterback. Maybe. I'm stunned by this.
Herbert was hit 14 times yesterday.
Yeah. The Chargers are the same thing every year.
I know.
Right? It's got to be maddening to be a fan of theirs.
I buy in. Guilty as charged. It feels like every year. Where I go, nope, this is the year. Nope, this is no. But Joe Burrow, I think, is the right answer there.
Yeah, now he has a decent injury history. Although I will say this about Joe. He's actually running a little bit more than I ever thought he had in him. He's not a runner, right? They're not.
He scrambles.
He
scrambles.
Yeah, he can get a couple. You need a quarterback. It's really hard now. If your quarterback can't get a couple first downs with their legs, they even have called a couple quarterback draws now for Joe.
Yeah.
He missed a handoff yesterday and followed the running back up for positive yardage. I think Burrow is a very, very good answer. I think the leaning towards Burrow would be he's already shown he can do it in the playoffs at a high level and win those games in the playoffs. Hurts has not shown that. Hurts has one playoff game against the Bucs, and he was awful.
Yeah, I think that's where the tipping point is for Joe Burrow because he went to the Super Bowl. And you saw him go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and he didn't blink. And a couple of those passes were really difficult passes with the game on the line.
You know what I think is interesting about that, Dan? And rightfully so. No matter what his stats are this year, no matter how well he's playing, there are a bunch of people that still won't totally buy into Hurts until they see him do it in one of those back and forth games against Mahomes or Josh Allen or maybe Burrow. And I get it. I totally get it. Until they see him do it in a big game, playoffs or whatever against a quarterback like that, people are still going to be skeptical of Hurts. I think that's fair until he shows it.
Yeah, because he did not look comfortable in the game against Tampa Bay last year. By the way, where is Tampa on the landscape of good teams, great teams in the NFC?
Not in the top four. They're not. I think they are a clear step below Vikings, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles.
And they're going to be probably 8-9 and host a playoff game.
Yeah, and the thing that's crazy is they still have enough good players. And because of Brady, none of us would be like shocked if they went and won a couple playoff games. I don't see them winning 3, though. Man, they would really have to turn this thing around to be able, I mean, in consecutive weeks to beat like the Cowboys, the Vikings, the Niners, the Eagles, some combination of 2 or 3 of those. I just don't see it.
Ross will be on the call Saturday for Army-Navy for Westwood 1. What's the weather supposed to be like in Philadelphia?
I didn't even look yet. I was just about to pull it up. I'll say this. My single favorite day of the year, Dan, every year. Saturday, it'll be nice, partly sunny, high of 44. So it doesn't look like we're getting a weather game. I try to describe it to people. I grew up outside of Philadelphia. I never went. People would say, "Oh, you got to go to the Army-Navy game. You got to go." I was like, I got Penn State season tickets. Like, I never went. You got to go. Anybody watching or listening, you have to go. It's hard to explain how your heart feels during that day, but it just feels awesome. Everybody in there is like bursting with pride and patriotism, no matter what the record is, no matter what's going on. I think it's the greatest rivalry in sports. I know people say Ohio State, Michigan. Those guys are all already have agents they're going to sign with that they know already. They're all looking at NFL. For these guys, this is it. This is it. Like there is no bigger game. They're not going to the playoff, college football playoff. They're not going to the NFL. They're representing millions of men and women that watch the game. To me, there is no bigger game.
We'll be watching. We'll be listening. Thank you, Ross.
Absolutely. See you, Dan.
That's Ross Tucker, CBS Westwood One color analyst, host of Ross Tucker Football Podcast, available every Monday. Always great to talk to him. And he's right about this. The atmosphere, it's not about the records of the teams. It's the atmosphere that you have that you can't replicate. And if you do get that opportunity, I've said before, if you could ever get to West Point and watch a football game in October, early November, it's gorgeous. And you will never feel prouder, ever,